And tech analyst Hanif Olufade joins me from Ilorin via Zoom to discuss this. Good to have you join us, Hanif Olufade.
Hi, thank you. Good afternoon.
Now, all over the world, we seem to be seeing this suspension on different media platforms. We've seen Facebook suspending former President Trump for 2 years. We've seen the deletion of President Muhammadu Buhari's tweets. There is other suspension, and there is just a American author who was recently also suspended from Twitter because they said she posted something, misinformation about COVID-19 vaccines. Talk to us about what you make of this new policies and whether this could constitute some level of some slippery slope.
Well, we currently have like a capitalist government, right, where the finances are kind of heavily influenced by the people. So social media kind of it's a platform, right, that interconnects everybody. So if we're going to look at the issue with the Xiaohongshu, right, stemming back to the 1989 crisis in Tiananmen, where there was the crackdown on protests and all of that, when you have a tweet like that or a post like that, it can trigger certain kind of emotions, especially since we are currently living in a more liberal age where people are more emotionally conscious of the things that go on around them. So and especially now that corporate giants and social media giants like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram are being held accountable for the kind of content that they allow regulate. So when you have a page with massive followership and then it posts, and then they have posts that send certain kind of messages, whether directly or indirectly, they as a private entity are heavily influenced by it because it either makes or breaks them. If it's a post that receives a positive feedback from the people, like I said, it's a capitalist government now, so it's heavily influenced by the people, that's local people, and not as much by the government. So if it's heavily influenced,
isn't that why big techs are locking horns with several governments across the world? Because these governments say there is some level of bias towards them. When they post, it is taken down or they are suspended. But when they have posts within the country that could lead to maybe strife or violence in the country, these big techs don't take it down, and some, not just Nigeria, some other governments are also pretty much upset about this. We've seen that case in places like South Korea. What would you say about this?
Well, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because if you check in within the youthful demographic, you have a lot of people posting a lot of things. Some of them obviously infringing or breaking the terms and conditions of use for said social media platforms. So when you have people breaching said terms, they usually do face it. But because some of these pages do not have as much of a reach, they do not have as much of an influence on the kind of people, right, that they reach. It's not reacted to as quickly as something like a government platform where a lot of people are looking out to these platforms for news or updates on whatever is going on in their countries. So yes, it can seem like it's biased towards especially giant corporate bodies and governments, but that's because those pages have a much higher reach, and as much they have greater influence on the kind of reactions that they get. And Twitter, do not forget, is privately owned. It's liaising, it's in business with the government and all of that, but then it's privately owned, and it affects their business greatly because if they lose out on a certain amount of private users, it means that they lose out on a lot of money that they could make. It's not just restricted to Twitter, it's Facebook, Instagram.
But they all have, sorry again, I have to jump in. They all have their sensitive media policy, which revolves around graphic content, adult content, content that promote hate. I mean, these things are there. For Twitter, I think it's about 5 categories. So if it's there, irrespective of your reach, shouldn't it be that, because it takes one person to see such graphic content and decides to act on it. Irrespective of your reach, shouldn't Twitter say that, look, we are going to take it down? And then at what point should these big techs be held responsible if any message on their platform leads to or have negative repercussions?
Well, in several times in the past, it has had, like you have said, negative repercussions. It's actually you are right. They really do need to be held accountable. They need to crack down more on what private entities do or private entities tweet out. But like I said, I guess it might seem more biased to like government and giant corporate bodies because they have a greater reach on set platforms. They have a wider audience that they appeal to. So that's why you find that the kind of things that go more viral more quickly are posts that come from said in social media pages. Say it's state government pages, federal government pages, country pages, the page of the president, or any other one. For as long as it has a wider outreach, it is more likely to reach the people who are supposed to act on it. And now, the way it actually, on a technical level, the way it actually operates is you actually have to have someone, like a physical human being. It's not just computer program. You have to have a physical like a human being to actually go through whatever post it is and then decide on whether or not it is going to stay banned or if it's going to be withheld or deleted. You understand what I mean? The regulation is still human based. The detection can be done automatically or by AI or whatever kind of algorithm they choose to use, but the decision ultimately still boils down to human use. So it's easier for said news to reach a wider demographic or a page which has a wider user followership to have that kind of reaction that it would be for a private entity.
I mean, we have seen several suspension of accounts and deletion of tweets. We know that this is not going to be the last conversation on this, but thank you for being part of this conversation. Tech analyst Hanif Olufade, thanks for talking to us.
Yeah, well.